What's up? What's up? We made it to the
What's
second
up?
episode.
Second episode.
Even though
That's
we're
right.
wearing the same clothes and
Yes.
welcome to the Nerdy Cricketer. That's Iyer. This is me, Dhayvat.
Hello, guys.
Iyer, a bit about yourself, or we'll dive right into the analysis.
Let's go into the analysis.
What, if you had to give a one-liner for Nerdy Cricketer, what would it be?
The Excel analysis of cricket, or where the analysis excel? I don't know.
Where cricket excels because of the analysis. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Well, the irony of it is we are using Google Sheets and not quite Excel. So that's the end of Excel. But anyways, diving into KKR, my pretty little sheet. I'm proud of this.
Much more colorful sheet than mine, but let's get into it. So,
Let us.
what do you think?
So I think taking by the route of banker and getting into, I think this is where the top half is where entrepreneur ends and the bottom half is where a banker begins. So I'll get into the culture of KKR and how it's transitioned over the years, I feel. So I think KKR has come a long way, and where they excelled under Gambhir, that aggressive mindset is now sort of gone to good guy aggressive mindset. There are no spats on the field. There'll be good guys who'll come and be aggressive in their approach. Venkatesh Iyer being the best example of what happened.
Aggressive while playing, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Not otherwise.
And Tim Saudi, Venkatesh Iyer, even Shreyas Iyer to that matter.
Shreyas Iyer as well. Yeah.
Are good examples of what KKR stands for. And let's see where they spend their money as well as how they spend their money. So getting down to the core, and this is very different from what you did with Chennai, right? Whereas the core was all CSK.
Yes.
In KKR, they've not gotten to the stage where they've had a core of KKR. Their foreign core has been KKR.
They've retained a decent amount of people. It's just that CSK retained everyone that was Indian. I mean, and foreigners as well. But the entire CSK Indian core was ex-CSK.
Exactly.
Where I think KKR had to get some extras.
KKR's core has been this Sunil Narayan, Andre Russell chunk. But
I mean, Pat Cummins is an ex-KKR guy.
Of course. And Venki as well as Nitish Rana are people they've given a hand and a leg for. I sort of saw KKR as the Arsenal of IPL, where they're the ones who get the talent up and ready and then watch that talent nicely go into another.
Go away. It's true. Well, I mean, hey, Surya Kumar Yadav was once a KKR guy.
I don't want to start off with
it's a very long list. Let's not go there. That's a painful list, exactly.
But I think now they're sort of building that core, and I see Shreyas Iyer as a brilliant buy as well as a captain. That's going to be he's going to be a captain for the next 3 to 5 years if he does well.
Yeah.
So,
but two things, right? Two questions for you. I mean, I know that you said that KKR has been that team that sort of gets players, develops them, and then watches them go away to other teams. Question to you is, do you think they've sort of realized that themselves? And do you think that they've probably overcompensated this time? Because, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, we'll let you give your 2 cents on their retentions. But I mean, man, some of these retentions, I mean, Andre Russell, Narayan, Chakravarti, I mean, clearly a lot of guys with injury, fitness issues. Nitish Rana, I mean, they gave an arm and a leg for him. I mean, do you think that there's that element of KKR that they felt they want to correct and ended up overcompensating? And second question is, I mean, Shreyas Iyer, I mean, great. I mean, he's a good captain. You know, he definitely wants to captain. I think he does have a bit of hurt from the fact that he was like, you know, he was sort of undone in Delhi because Pant is just a much more street smart captain. But Shreyas has never really set the IPL on fire. I mean, he's a good batsman, but I don't really remember the last time he gave, or ever that he gave a 400, 500 run season. So, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
clear
to
questions.
your point, and definitely I feel maybe they have probably overpaid with the likes of Rana. I'm not too sure about Chakravarti and Iyer because that is what KKR have been. And not to forget that KKR actually made it to the final last year on the back of late second half resurgence under whatever you want to call it, but under the spark of Venkatesh Iyer.
But remember two things, right? Venkatesh Iyer, there's always there's always this thing called the second season blues, right? I mean, Venkatesh Iyer basically came out of nowhere last year and just sort of
there's a Paul Valthati
or the Swapnil Atsnotkar of like KKR. I mean, there's always these guys who come, blaze 400 runs and then disappeared. So I mean, whether he's I think he's not that. I think he's the real deal. But TBD, let's see. And Chakravarti,
as much as it hurts me right now to say it, I think KKR are banking on the 2 Iyers this season.
Yes. Yeah.
And the third Tamilian.
Yeah, Chakravarti.
Who's Bengali Tamilian.
Fair enough. I mean, I don't think he's a Bengali of any. I mean, he's in Chennai, but he's just happens to be playing for Kolkata. But I mean, the question about Chakravarti, right? He has his own fitness issues. Like he's not. And remember one thing. I mean, the thing with the thing with Chakravarti and Venki is that these are your typical middle class Indians who've been. Chakravarti, for example, was an architect.
Right.
Venki was working at Deloitte. I mean, they didn't start playing cricket until they were 25, 26.
Right.
Professionally. So they have only started much later. So what it means is their bodies are not fit to play. Like, they are injury prone. Like they haven't been.
Yes. No, I completely agree. And I think this is where the culture of, like you said, CSK typically has a player who has more than one dimension to their game. And they are potentially players who have more than one skill that they can hone. I think KKR is that team, which is where the New Zealand mindset comes in, where cricket is not potentially their one and only goal since they were born. But these are players who are just naturally talented. And these are players who play cricket for the fun of it. So that shows up on the field. Having said that, I think under the leadership of someone like Shreyas Iyer, who did really well in Delhi Daredevils till he got injured, is something that should be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to and having someone like Rane, who's way past his prime, who's low on confidence, to come in as a leader in this role would be interesting to see how that turns out for KKR. So yeah, just diving into the aspects of along the lines that you had drawn out. Say there are the Indian pros in Chakravarti, Iyer, and Rane, Rana, and Yadav. And I have written that point of concern, and we'll get to that about the injuries because their entire core out of the 11, their best 11, they've got 7 players who are prone to
injury. Could get injured.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get to that. But I think if everyone's fit, which I don't know how they'll play towards the playoff, if they're planning to be in the playoff and play and rotate their players to ensure that everyone's fit during the playoffs, they could be potentially lethal during the playoffs because that's when the wickets will be slower. And I think KKR is the best team to be in a 130, 150 chase or 130, 150 type pitch. They proved it last time with their 2 performances in the eliminator and the qualifiers. But at the moment with a high, like I don't see KKR doing amazingly well in a 170 plus game. Unless
I think they lack that sort of. I mean, either they. So I think the way I see them performing in a 170 game is either they just go out for 110 or they just finish. They chase that in 15 overs because Russell hits like 60 of 10.
Exactly.
I mean,
And
something like that, right? So
that's happened once this season so far with Russell.
yeah,
He's been that unpredictable. If it's that day, Narayan has been figured out, I think, in terms of batting.
I mean, Narayan, batting. I mean, Narayan's batting is simple. Just go out and smash it. Like, I think, let's see. I mean, he still managed to get, I mean, he recently was playing at the BPL and he started opening and he hit like 350s. But, that's again, like Narayan goes to like these small T20 leagues and people who don't know how he bats, he scores those 50s and 60s.
Exactly.
But then once you work him out, you work him out. So
in the IPL, there are computers and laptops that are studying your bat swing. So Narayan's not going to get any chance on that. He's good at playing pace, but I think with spinning wickets, he's going to struggle. But that time will say, I think as of now, they'll be okay. Their struggles right now are probably the fact that, well, Alex Hales pulled out and Aaron Finch and Pat Cummins are not available. So their international department is a little weak at the moment. They've got backups, but I wouldn't say like for like.
Yeah.
And just going to the Indian pros. So we all know Chakravarti Iyer and Iyer, but Shreyas Iyer has to have a 500 plus season to have anything to do with KKR reaching the playoffs. Nitish Rana, time and again, has been that player who performs and is that 50, 1 off 50 here, there. But he still does it in like 40
I couldn't understand why they paid so much for him, but
exactly. So unless he's going to play a larger role as a bowler, I don't see the point of Nitish Rana really being worth 8 crores. Well, time will tell.
I mean,
and he's a decent anchor, but we'll get to the point that I think KKR is all about anchors, and that'll probably be the reason that the ship is being close to that anchor down below on the sea.
I mean, I was very surprised that they went hard for Rana, but they let go of Tripathi. I thought that, if they had to choose between the two, they would have gone for Tripathi. I mean, that really surprised me. I mean, one could argue that Rana is but no, he's not really an all-rounder. Come on. I mean, if he's an all-rounder, I'm playing the IPL. I mean, that's not an all-rounder, man.
Not IPL. You're playing under 14 probably.
Under 14 probably,
He's bowled a few overs, but they've got, and this is where I think it gets interesting, in the uncapped space, which is where I think a lot of will go for the teams. You've got a Rinku Singh, but you've also got a Pratham Singh, who I think would potentially be their Rahul Tripathi somewhere middle through the season. He's that kind of player who he's been giving starts amazingly well in the domestic leagues. So he's been doing really well in the domestic leagues as an opener. And I see doing a lot more of that for KKR in times to come. I don't know. Okay, he got 20 lakhs, probably got lucky with the business. But
I think he's also plays for Railways, if I remember correctly. So it's like, very like these are teams that you don't get noticed. And, who was the last player that you remember playing for India from Railways? I mean, Sanjay Bangar, but
best
readers. Was he services? I don't remember. But anyways, I mean, was he Railways or services?
I think Railways itself. But there have been a few players that have come out of Railways, but
not recently, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, not recently for sure. Yes, and I think Pratham Singh is that kind of guy who'll probably be my bet, and he'll be my fantasy league 5.5 type player who will put in so that I can accommodate a Kohli or a Rohit Sharma. So Pratham Singh,
and he will give you
If he's announced in the 11, he's going to be a pick in my fantasy league for sure. So that's there. The other thing I feel in the uncapped players is Shivam Mavi has to come out and be the leader of this attack. Even though there is Umesh Yadav, we've seen time and again, even in RCB when he was the leader of the attack, there was a Siraj that emerged much quicker and much faster, and Umesh was sidelined because his death bowling is just as inconsistent as
non-existent.
I don't know. That's
I mean,
what.
Umesh is a power play bowler, right? He's
Yeah,
like the kind of guy who can maybe ball in the middle, but he's
yeah.
not. Yeah,
I'd be
I
nervous
think.
giving him a ball in the death.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and also Mavi, to be honest, right? Mavi has been around for a while now, so
Hmm. Hmm.
he can actually bat at number 7. So he's a pretty decent bat. He's only 23, so he's passed. I think when he started off, if you remember, him and Nagarkoti were the two
Hmm.
guys they picked up from the under 19s. When he started off, there was a lot of issues because of his fitness and all. But I think he's sort of gone through that initial teenage years, and he's now much fitter and much
Yeah,
much more. I think he lost a bit of pace, but he's got that sort of stability and that accuracy,
very good
and
shape.
his yeah, and his statistics in batting are pretty pathetic. Like his T20 average is 6, but I think he's a decent batsman. Like
Handy 20 in the eliminator
yeah,
was,
the fun fact that 20 was his highest score
well,
in
that's
T20 cricket, and he scored 54 runs in total in T20 cricket, and out of which 20 came in one inning. So yeah, his
this is
average
where
is 6.
this
So
is
he's
where
this
big game player, man. He's got that big
well,
mindset.
fair enough. Absolutely,
Just
I really hope he does it. But yeah, I mean, to call him an all-rounder, I mean, is a bit of a stretch, but
yeah, who
you
knows?
never know. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. Well, once it comes to the playoffs, that's when we know the whole big game mindset. Like CSK is
Yes.
full of big game players. MI is full of big game players. Shikhar
Yeah.
Dhawan is one such player who's like he'll give you a 50 on any
Yes.
given playoff or pressure game.
He'll give you 500 runs, not just
Yeah, yeah,
50. I mean, he's a
exactly.
500-run bank, like proper.
Which is where
3 seasons
Punjab,
in a row.
watch Punjab make him a 350 player this season.
Yeah, if there's one, I mean, Punjab is the anti-CSK. If there's anyone who can take a perfectly great player and completely shred his confidence, I mean, that's Punjab. I mean, Pooran, 4 ducks in a row, got run out of the non-strikers and without facing a ball. I mean, only Punjab can do this to a player, but
We'll get to Punjab when we get
we'll
to
get to
Punjab.
Punjab, yeah.
And there are a few interesting buys. And I think like Sheldon Jackson, for example, who they paid 60 lakhs for. He's been in the circuit for a while. He's been with
Yeah,
KKR for a while. He seems to be that perfect team player that KKR has. I don't know. Given they've got only what Sam Billings as the other keeper.
yeah, that was my next thing. Wicket keeper. I mean, they pretty much got I mean, let's go to that when we go to the team compositions. But I mean, I see that they're really bank. I mean, either they kind of bet on Jackson because you can't have an overseas keeper as your only guy because sometimes you tinker with the combination, right? So,
But
I
this
mean,
is what I
Jackson is
call
one
it
guy they bet on.
Wasim Jaffer phenomenon, where Jackson, having 30 odd years of experience playing in domestic circuits, would know the pitches and
Yeah,
characteristics inside
yeah,
out. I remember once that Gambhir had said for KKR that the person who used to give them the most accurate pitch
Bhatia,
reading was
Bhatia,
Bhatia.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I see Sheldon Jackson being that core
yeah,
and that connect to the domestic circuit. So I think him and Sam Billings potentially both could be playing a lot of the games together.
yes,
But Billings being given that more affirmative role that you'll be playing in the first 11 for the next 10 games or 8 games would be a huge plus for him because he's
yeah,
never had that except for probably
but
what playing for Kent,
yeah,
known for the wicket keeper batsman. Also, yeah, well,
yeah.
he was in Chennai for a while. So
Yeah, I mean, that's. I just think there was a better wicketkeeper there, so I think he just never got a chance.
I
But
think the
I mean, I have my doubts about Billings'
of course, you're
play
talking about
against
Jagdish,
spin.
right? The better
Well,
keeper.
yes, that's
Yeah.
the only wicketkeeper that ever played for Chennai.
Ah.
All right.
Yeah, and I think Billings. The other thing is the irony of it is he's got 2 man of the matches playing
Mm-hmm.
in Chennai, both against KKR, of course. In KKR, if I in Calcutta, if I'm not mistaken. So
Wow.
yeah, well, if there's one team he knows well and loves playing for or against is KKR. So
KKR.
maybe luck changes.
Yeah.
The last person I'd like to probably concentrate on or talk about is this one guy called, oh, I forgot to mention here. Mr. Aaron Finch. Definitely an
Oh
old.
yeah, he's the replacement for. He is the replacement for
Alex Hales.
Alex Hales, right? Yeah.
Now he's also got a pretty cool record of the first player in IPL to represent 9 teams.
Yeah, but I think this is the Aaron Finch has got a. If you look at his statistics as an overseas player, I mean, as an international T20 guy,
Hmm.
he's got good statistics, solid guy, but somehow he's just never managed to find a spot in the IPL.
Exactly. And I think
Or
that's what I mentioned as well. He hasn't arrived at the IPL stage ever, to that matter. He's had
yeah,
2 interesting seasons, and that's where it's like an anomaly for Aaron Finch or whatever.
yeah.
He's played well in Gujarat Lions. Not to appreciate anything about the wind and air about Gujarat. कुछ दिन तो गुजारिए गुजरात में, but his his I think a lot has to do with his mindset, which is very similar to what Rane has been.
yeah,
He
yeah.
had a killer season in Rajasthan Royals under Dravid, and
Hmm.
Pune Warriors or Sara, whatever Pune thing,
Yeah, Rising Pune
un-
Giants, Super
right,
Giants, something like that. Yeah,
under Dhoni. So
yeah.
I think he does well under a good
Confidence
soft leader
givers.
and
Yeah,
not an overpowering leader like, say, someone we.
Kohli maybe.
Oh, Kohli.
well,
Huh.
the one
But
thing about Rahane, right? I mean, I think the one thing I think he's always done well when his mind is clear.
exactly.
The one thing with him is that I think he, unless he's sort of unless he has different thoughts, I feel if I'm Rahane right now, I'm like, look, my international career is kind of over, right? I
Exactly.
don't think I'm going to make my way back into the team. I mean, I
Hmm.
think in the Ranji Trophy recently, he got a couple of ducks as well. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see him coming back.
Hmm.
So for him, it's like, dude, look, my career is, I mean, I played 50, 80 test matches for India. I've had a great career. I think I have
Right.
a couple of years left. I've got a good IPL gig. I've
Hmm.
got a solid role that I need to do.
Exactly.
I'm going to play 14 games out of 14 games without any stress. I need to be the anchor or whatever. I think, if he goes in
With
with
that
that
clarity.
clarity of mind,
Exactly.
he'll be okay.
And the whole fact that he was a sidelines cricketer for Delhi didn't help his
Yes.
confidence at all.
Yeah, but I think in Delhi is also like they were just better people at the top.
Yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
mean, they
exactly.
had Warner and Dhawan and Pant and Prithvi Shaw. I mean, those guys were just filled with people. I mean, there was no place for a Rahane there. But
Exactly.
if there was one team that actually needed a Rahane, there was probably a KKR.
Exactly.
Because it was a good buy. I mean, bought him at base price, right? What
Yeah,
was it
yeah. I
like?
think
Yeah,
one.
1 crore. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I
He
think
can be
Rane,
opener number 3, whatever.
exactly. So Rane and Finch, who probably might be playing for the same position, interestingly,
Yeah,
are both in a similar position, and they might have a decent season under the leadership of McCullum and Hussey.
yeah, yeah.
So, and Iyer, of course, being that young captain. So this should be an interesting team, and I've always liked that KKR vibe. I've liked the cricket they play. It's like I've always liked the way New Zealand play their cricket.
Yeah,
Uh, I
absolutely.
I like KKR playing their cricket. Getting to the 11 now, this is where
Yeah, let's go
I
to the
think
11.
uh, things get interesting, and I think this is what you were saying with CSK as well. There are not too many backups. So you'll probably have a Venkatesh Iyer, Ajinkya Rane to begin with Aaron Finch
Hmm.
not playing the first 5 games.
Yes,
Nitish Rana floating around is what KKR do.
I
You
think
probably have
between Rane and they could
Narayan
swap. I
come
think
up.
Rane will go number 2.
Yeah, probably more likely. They probably might have Sunil Narayan come up someday. Who knows?
But you remember what they did with Narayan last year, or was it last year, or was it last to last year? They basically said that Narayan's just going to go whenever the wicket falls between overs 8 to 12.
Yeah,
Because in that middle overs where teams were technically slowing down after the power play,
yeah,
he would go there and give you that 15 or 5 or something like that, right? So it would
exactly.
be around for 1 or 2 overs and just
Do
score
what he
15, 20
does.
runs and get out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. No,
He's a
so
floater. They would use him the same way.
exactly, and I think that's been their strength, and that's also been their sort of weakness at times, where their entire middle order was floaters. What
Yeah.
brings what this Shreyas Iyer sampling setup brings though is that very core stability of 4 and 5. So
Yes.
these guys have a very clear
Yeah.
role, which Shreyas Iyer, of course, will, but Sam Billings, I think, will be given a long run for the first 4-5 games. I think that mid core with Morgan and Karthik being floaters back in the last year is something that might change their fortunes. Here again, as I mentioned, that Shreyas Iyer has to have a 500 plus season. Otherwise, KKR are banking bits and pieces.
I wasn't too sure if Billings is going to play any role at all. But now having looked at this breakdown and actually seen the makeup, I feel that they don't have any batsmen.
Right, exactly.
Like he has to play. I mean, Venki, Shreyas, Rahane, Rana, all of them. I mean, and then who are the overseas batsmen? That's it. There's just Finch.
They don't have
they don't have anyone. Yeah, they're screwed.
So that's one of the things that I've mentioned in the points of concern as well, that they're struggling for foreign batsmen. Like, imagine a team that has Aaron Finch as their best overseas batsman. So
fair enough. But you know what? They're probably still slightly better off when you compare to CSK in this regard, because CSK was just struggling for any batsman, whether it's Indian or foreign. At least I could say that in the KKR setup, I can see Shreyas being a 500-run bank. I can see Venki being a 500, not a bank, but I can see Venki scoring 500 runs. I can see Shreyas scoring 500 runs.
Right.
I could potentially see one of the other guys even scoring 400.
400, exactly. So Nitish or Rane, if they get in, they can. I'd love to see Rane having one of those Rajasthan Royal kind of seasons.
I think he will in this. If his mind depends on where his mind is. I think Rahane is a very, very mental player in the sense that he depends a lot on how he feels, and there's this. He always puts his hand outside the off stump.
But he's gifted with timing, which is what has always carried him through.
But that's why I feel he'll open, because he needs the new ball and a power play. So that's why I feel that he's probably going to open versus Rana. The other question for you, right? The other question.
Sorry to interrupt, but the other point that you had mentioned about Shivam Dubey, which is a huge advantage. No, Dubey. Is a huge advantage that KKR have is Rane, Bombay cricketer, Shreyas Iyer, Bombay cricketer, Nitish Rana, ex-Mumbai Indians cricketer. So these guys, plus they've got Chakravarti and Sunil Narayan for the tracks when they slow down. So these are playing into their hands in terms of conditions. Now, Russell won't be as effective on the Bombay wicket because it's not a get under the bat wicket. But D.Y. Patil is. So Wankhede probably not, but D.Y. Patil.
Wankhede is also a pretty okay for pace. I think Brabon is definitely the most spin-friendly wicket among the three.
Yeah.
Pune, I don't know what's going on there right now because it's just Pune and But you know what? Russell doesn't need the wicket. Doesn't really care about the wicket. I mean, it depends on which Russell shows up,
Sorry, you were asking a question.
So the thing is Venki, right? I mean, clearly, I think KKR might want him to open, whereas India, he knows that if he was to play for India, his spot for them is at number 6, right? Because India has too many openers, and I don't think they are going to have Venki. Venki's not their top 5, not even in the top 5 openers.
Right.
So if he has to play for India, he has to play at number 5, number 6. Question is, how does that affect his game in this IPL? Because he clearly wants to play for India, so he might want to play at the number 6 as a finisher, which is what he was doing against the West Indies recently. But I think KKR want him to open. So, it's going to be interesting. It's not a question, but more of a remark in the sense that it's going to be interesting how KKR play him. Do they go with Rana and Rahane up front and let Venki finish? Or they would just go with Venki up front? I think the latter, because they just did so well for them.
True. And I think this is where I believe there are certain suggestions that the board makes from time to time to franchisees, which have come up from time to time on different platforms. But what would be interesting is if Venki and Rane start off with the first 5 games and Rane really has a killer first 5 games, then Finch comes back and he then moves down to
replaces Billings, I think.
exactly. He replaces Billing
Could be.
and gets that middle order slot. So it could
But
be.
but the thing with I hear you, but the problem with that is if Finch comes in, the question is, he's not a gun go player. I mean,
right.
He's a soft starter and he can get sixes, but he's not like he's not going to go from ball one, right? So, but another thing, by the way, one other one they could do is they could just let Narayan open because
exactly
that could be an option. So fair enough. They've got a few.
They've got options, and and I don't know if Billings has ever opened in domestic circuits, but he's a number 4, number 5 player. He's played at number 4 a few times. So
I'm not even sure how much Billings. Let's see. I mean, Billings, I have my doubts about him.
And the other person, as I mentioned, Pratham could be 1 or 2 game play where they play Pratham up the order, given if Rane fails or doesn't come up. So Rane, sorry.
I'm saying the guy that I actually feel will be one of the key players for KKR and they would back him is Rinku Singh. Because remember one thing, I mean, Rinku Singh look at his record, his first class record, he's got an average of 60 something. His list A average is about 50 something. His T20 stats are not that good, as in he's averaging like 25 or so, 24, 25, but he has a strike rate of 140. What it means is clearly a guy who can play quick, but given that he ends up coming so low down the order, he's not really got the option or the sort of opportunities to convert. So his stats don't reveal everything. But I mean, to have a first class average of 60 and a list average of 50 is no joke. And they paid 5.5 crores for him.
Yeah.
And they've I don't believe that. I mean, as much as I've seen KKR do some really stupid shit over the past few years, but I don't think they would pay 5.5 crores for someone and sit him on the bench.
Lakhs, I think. 55
What is that? 55 lakhs?
55
maybe.
Yeah, but 55 lakhs still.
55 lakhs is still decent. I mean, they paid money for him. They bid through the auction. So, I mean, I think he's one of the guys they might give a run this season because he's been with the team for a while. He knows the culture and the DNA.
No, I think that's true. It is interesting, and then I can see KKR play that England brand of cricket. The only problem where I see that going wrong is they've got these gaping holes, and getting to the first problem of their
let's look at
the anchors take up most of their top order. So they've got a very bottom heavy strike rate. Like if they have to chase down maybe something at 8-10 and runs and over, they've got a good Sam Billings, Sheldon Jackson or Rinku Singh, Andre Russell type finisher role. But will it be too late by the time they come in? Are the Rahanes and the Ranas of the team going to bring that asking run rate to maybe 12, 13? So I don't know.
I think yes, on the surface of it, I think KKR has a bunch of too many anchors, but they're not as bad as CSK in this regard because there are 3 to 4 power hitters in this team, like Russell, Narayan, Venki. I mean, they've got like 3 solid power hitters. Now, whether or not they will fire is a different story, but that's the case with any power hitter, right? So. I think versus CSK, they have the same problem as CSK, and I suspect a lot of teams are going to have the same problem. But there is some power. Like if I look at CSK and be like, who's the power hitter? I mean, Jadeja is your number 1 name. I mean, he's a good. I mean, no offense to Jadeja, but
I mean, he hit the best bowler for 5 sixes last season. Harshal Patel.
So he's great, but like I don't know. I mean, they're running out of options after him. So yeah.
The other bit that I don't get, and I guess it's more to do with the fact that they can only choose 8 players, and out of the 4 retentions, Kolkata had 2 injury foreigners. There are so many good foreign batsmen that have not made the cut.
Yes,
in the 10 teams, but still, I mean, you see the likes of Nabi or Aaron Finch taking up spots that are not true match winner spots.
Yeah.
So
I think Hales is a match winner. I think that was a good buy.
Exactly.
I think they got screwed because of Hales pulling out, and then they had to go for Finch. The problem is Jason Roy pulled out, and then before, like they could have gone for Gurbaz, who Gujarat picked up, but he was picked up by Gujarat, and then there's just not too many other openers today left. Like all the openers, they all got picked by. Actually, that's the thing we were discussing, right? Because there are so many openers in India, the foreign openers either don't get picked or they get picked for like base price. I mean, Evan Lewis, Jason Roy, Aaron Finch, Alex Hales, all of these guys are great openers, but they all got picked for base price. Whereas you've got mediocre all-rounders like, Romario Shepherd going for 10 crores. So, But yeah, I hear you that I think Nabi was a good pick for them, though. I think he'll be a good replacement for potentially someone like a Russell, because I don't see Russell playing every game.
Yeah.
And he's a good bowler and decent batsman.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what, as a foreign player, the onus of winning a game or carrying the team through would be on you more often than not, which is something that I don't see, say, a Nabi doing as of now. Who knows?
Yeah, that's fair.
I wonder what Ashok Sharma is.
I mean, listen, we will come to know about this guy. This mystery will hopefully be solved by the end of the season.
Definitely not an overseas pro. And
I mean, I think he should show his. I think he should. Yeah, I've never seen a player who doesn't have anything even on Cricket Force. I think clearly, there have been some scouting. There's been some serious scouting going on here. How much did they pay for him? 55 lakhs.
You don't know something about Ashok Sharma that Excel does. Well, he will be a shock to your life. Anyways, let's not go down that route yet.
Oh man, 19-year-old guy.
The other thing that you mentioned, and this is both point 3 and 4. If I'm looking at this team, Venki, Shreyas Iyer, Andre Russell, Sunil Narayan, Shivam Mavi, Varun Chakravarti, Umesh Yadav. This is like half the team and a little more.
This is injury 11.
It is definitely
hamstring 11. This is like hamstring or calf muscle 11.
There's a knee in the middle, I think.
There's a knee. There's a ham. I mean, I think with let's say that with this KKR team and given the different, you can form an entire human body just by the different parts of the different people that are injured.
Exactly.
And permanently.
The only
Russell's
thing
always holding his knees.
Will be a head.
There's a head, which is I don't think they still have that on the team. But anyway, let's see how that pans out.
So yeah, that's going to be an issue. There's no doubt. Like, I have not seen Umesh Yadav play 10 games of cricket back to back in his life.
Oh no.
I have not seen, say, Andre Russell. Like, it's expected. You just don't know when. You're just hoping that you've not picked him in the fantasy team. Pull up one of his overs in the middle of the over, and he's like, and he's gone.
I mean, my most visual, like, I remember vividly remember seeing Andre Russell holding his knee and walking around more than I've actually seen him hitting sixes in the IPL,
exactly.
At least recently.
So I think they're backup for everything: spin, all-rounders, players in general. They'll probably, I see Ashok Sharma making his debut at KKR after being paid 55 lakhs.
I think they have a decent, serviceable first 11.
Exactly.
But I think they're really going to struggle with any one of them pops up with an injury, and they have an injury-prone first 11. So fine, you do the math.
No, most definitely this 11 is not going to be playing
every match.
14, even 12 games. So let's see how that pans out. Maybe Aaron Finch and Pat Cummins, given their break in the first 5 games, fill in those shoes. But time will tell.
And they've got decent pace, with Saudi. What I see happening technically is because their Indian pace is either injured or not so great. What they'll end up doing is they'll play both Saudi and Pat Cummins at some point. and probably
But
depending
then,
on one of Russell or Narayan, and then maybe not play
yeah,
Billings and play someone else. So there's a good chance that they would do something like that.
true. The other
But I
thing,
don't see Umesh holding 14 games.
yeah, and that's the problem. Like the other thing I see a problem with KKR is last time a lot of their front end games were won due to Lockie Ferguson's brilliant death bowling as
Yes,
well as
yes,
bowling up
yeah.
front. They don't have that fast bowler at the moment.
Well, he's another injury-prone player, but anyways, it's good that at least they spread some of their pain.
You just hope that.
Yeah, I agree. They don't have that gun fast bowler who's going to go and break the game open.
Yeah,
I think that's the case with Chennai as well. That was Deepak Chahar. He was not out and out fast
in
bowler,
a
but he
different
can
manner.
break the game open. Yeah,
And
he will take wickets and break it open.
Lockie Ferguson can break confidence. Forget games.
Yeah,
He
that's
can
true.
break,
Yeah,
heads, confidence, and other things.
fully agree. I think they lack that now.
Yeah, so I think Umesh Yadav might be given that role, but I don't see Umesh Yadav filling those shoes. So
I mean, they've got three solid fast bowlers, all great. Like Saudi is a good bowler, Cummins is a good bowler, Yadav is a good bowler, but I don't think they're.
He's a good
Mavi is also a good bowler, but I think that's it. They're not match winners on, like, in a T20 format. They're all like Cummins. I mean, nobody's debating his record and his skill set and none of that stuff. But yeah,
and
he hasn't done well yet in the IPL.
And well, I think slowly they'll also start seeing that they'll need a little more leadership in the middle. But I guess time will tell on how, say, Sheldon Jackson or Rinku Singh or these guys hone up to the expectations. Which is also the fact that they don't have a good keeper. If this is the last mega auction, I don't see which keeper they're going to pick up in times to come. So that
they've got. I think they've got Indrajit Baba. Indrajit is another guy who keeps wickets from time to time. But then again, as you said, like he's not. I mean, he's got a great Ranji record. I mean, he's averaging 50 plus. I mean, this season he's been fantastic, and he's a good batsman.
I think
but his T20 record is
hone out. He's a well sorted player.
Yes, absolutely. He's a very good player, but yeah, he's again 105 strike rate. If I remember correctly.
That's what.
So he's not. Yeah, he can't be your. Yeah. So he's got another one. Yeah, his strike rate of 105 exactly, 104.5. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to cap things off, as we mentioned, they've got very good first 11. If everyone's fit, I can see them making the playoffs.
Yes.
9 times out of 10. But which KKR shows up holding which part of the body is.
Yeah, which is only time. Yeah.
And they could
very well.
Decent. They're probably, I think, as the pitches wear out, they'll probably be one of the teams that are doing better.
Yeah.
But they need to save their players for those games. So
I think their spin backup is reasonably decent. They've got much better spin backup than, say, a CSK, for example. Like they've got, Narayan and Chakravarti are injury prone, yes, but they've also got Nabi, who's a good, smart guy. Anukul has also played well for Mumbai, I think, from time to time. Like he's played a few games for them. He's done okay.
He's been that 12th man
forever. Yeah, I think he played a few games. He played a couple of them.
He played one game and I think got 1 wicket as well. He's not bad actually. Anukul did very well in his under 19.
Yeah.
India's just been producing truckloads of left armers. So
he's only 23 though, by the way. So he's still got a huge time ahead of him. So he's and he can bat well. So I think they're okay on the spin side. I think they're fine.
And then he might end up being like an Abhishek Sharma, where they're just filling in. If both Billings and Jackson and Rinku Singh, these guys fail, then I see the likes.
Then you have
Baba and Anukul come in as that 7th, 8th spot.
Yeah, they've got a few of these guys like Rasikdar and stuff like that. Like so they picked up a few of these, left field choices. So let's see. I mean, they've got some decent backups.
And I forgot about Chamika, but he could be an interesting all-rounder pick.
So
as a
Jamaica,
Russell.
No, I mean, listen, he's like the poor man's Russell. I think, he's like the fourth copy of Sabyasachi's Lenga. Like, it's I mean, Jamaica, I've seen him play. He's not a he's not a 4-over bowler. He's like, he can give you 2 overs for 20. I mean, his T20 average, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it's something like,
he picked up a few wickets
10.
this season, man. He picked up, I think, I'm trying to remember whose wicket he picked up, but whatever. He's not
He picks up the odd wicket. But he's not quick. He's okay. I mean, he's expensive, reasonably expensive. His average rate in T20, I'm just looking it up now, is like 8.4. So he's not, he's okay. I mean, and he's an all-rounder. He's decent.
Yeah.
But to call him a replacement for Russell, I think it's a very bold statement. I think he's a decent pick. Like, I think they picked him up for 50 lakhs base price. He bowls a bit at I think it was like,
okay,
probably his base price. So they picked him. I mean, he's decent. He gives you, he's a multi-skilled guy, good fielder, can hit a few sixes at the end, and can bowl a few overs.
Right.
And sometimes he bowls with the depth as well. So I think he's a smart pick. Like, just because there is no, in the world in general, there's a lack of seam bowling all-rounders, and to find one for like 50 lakhs and try to see if that person can, take a punt on it and see if it works is a good ploy. I'd rather pay 50 lakhs for him than 10 crores for someone like a Romario Shepherd, but let's see.
He could be the next Varun Chakravarti.
Could be. I mean, there's no mystery about him, but yeah.
And I mean, not Varun Chakravarti, sorry, Venkatesh Iyer.
Could be. But yeah, I think he needs some time, and he's still a work in progress, I think.
Yeah. Now, going back to something similar, what you did to just as we wrap up, something that we did, you can see a little better spread in the price, how they've spent. And this is just, I guess, the difference between, say, a CSK or an MI versus these other teams, where they don't pay a hand and a leg to get someone back. So they definitely have paid a lot for Iyer, but understandably so, because they're building a team around him, and that is their future punt, similar to what they did with Gambhir.
But you know what? I think Iyer is definitely one of the guys who they played a lot for. But also, I think the other teams knew that KKR needs a captain.
Yeah.
And they knew the moment they started going for Iyer, they were like, they knew that this guy is probably going to be the captain. So, I think there was also an element of people inflating his price. Not to say he doesn't deserve it, but I think just, I'm surprised for Rana. I mean, they did look. I'm not going to deny that they forked a lot of money for people. I mean, they paid a lot. I mean, they have paid a lot to retain. I mean, Rana was retained at 8 crores. Pat Cummins for 7.25. I mean, Rinku Singh was 55, I think.
Yeah.
So they paid decent money, but I mean,
it's still a little more distributed amongst the pros and the
true. Yeah.
So Mavi and Rinku Singh were, say, the uncaps that they got back.
Yes.
They didn't pay arm and a leg for those, is what I meant.
Yes. And that's true.
And more so, I feel that they've got, like, I think one of the people that they went for aggressively was a Liam Livingston, which is something that they still are missing. And they probably will try and have Sam Billings fit in that
do that role, but he was asking too much of Billings, but I mean, hopefully time will tell.
Yeah. Billings was there, I think in West Indies, he was their full-time keeper right now, and he didn't do great, but okay, I think 20 or something.
He is okay. I mean, Sam Billings is never really set any. I mean, I always, honestly, when somebody goes to Chennai and then Chennai let them go away, I always I'm not so sure, because Chennai, if they feel that the player has something, they won't let him go. I mean, Chennai is one of the best record. Chennai, if you remember, Chennai picked up Jason Holder in 2000 and God knows when, like 18 or 17 or much back when nobody knew who we were. So, I mean, his average, I mean, the Billings is average of 25, strike rate of 130. He's played 215 games. So he's got a lot of opportunities. But to be averaging for 25 after 215 games, I think is a little bit of a...
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's your... that's what you would want to be averaging.
Fair. And I feel that these are two people that they need, Rane and Billings.
Yes.
Who they need for a good season, other than the obvious ones. These are the two ones who have a fixed role for once, and they should be able to make the most of that.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree.
What do you think their chances for the playoffs are?
I mean, I think with KKR and the way they've structured their team this time, I think it's sort of going to be an all or nothing sort of tournament for them.
Right.
Either everyone shows up and then, they've got a great set of 11 players and everyone fires, or the key guys fire at the key times and then they go all the way to the finish. Or I think they'll probably end up just above Punjab Kings, who will definitely end up last on the table just because they're Punjab Kings. But anyways, I keep shitting on them, but no, I think they have a good chance of making it to the playoffs. In all fairness, depending very much on the fitness of their players and the form of some of the key guys. I know it's a generic statement, but it's more relevant to KKR because of the fact that most of their players are injury prone, including Shreyas, by the way, who was out for a very long time because he had an injury, although that was an impact injury. So that was not a...
as dislocated shoulder.
Yeah.
So, I think Iyer, I do see Iyer becoming a long-term prospect for KKR and just retiring from KKR.
Yeah.
At some point, if he does.
I think Iyer wants to captain India at some point, definitely. I think there is a bunch of 4 or 5 people. So that's the good thing about this IPL. I think Rohit Sharma is not going to be around forever. So you need to find the next captain. I think all the contenders or people who have secured spots have managed to captain a franchise. Pant, Shreyas, KL Rahul, even Jadeja now. So, it's a good thing that everyone, even Mayank is captaining a franchise. So that way it's nice. Leadership experience for everyone.
Definitely. No, it should be fun. And let's see, hopefully the first game should be a cracker, much like the first game of the IPL ever.
Yeah, let's see. 24 hours, less than 24 hours to go. So
yeah, man.
Let's see how it goes. And sorry, what do you think about, before we close out, the last final couple of statements, what do you think about KKR's chances for making the playoffs?
I do think that they've got a good chance of making the playoffs if they are smart about how they use their players. The only thing is, I think because of the fact that Aaron Finch is not playing the first 5 games, he will most definitely come in as a player towards the end of the tournament, which is a little riskier. And you're betting on Aaron Finch's form then.
Yeah.
Had he been playing the first game, I would have been a little more confident and probably seen the likes of Sheldon Jackson come in early and given the opportunity to perform. Right now, a lot hangs on Sam Billings. So, let's see.
And I'm not really, that's the thing. I mean, a lot, as you said it, I think a lot hangs on Sam Billings, and he's not the kind of guy who inspires a lot of confidence, especially for me. But I mean, let's see. TBD.
I've got a soft spot for keepers as it is. So, let's see. Hopefully, he gets going.
I hope so. Anyways, awesome.
Awesome, Iyer.
Thank you.
You tomorrow for what? DCMI?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. See you, man.
Let's